What is going on, guys? Jack here and welcome back to another Football Manager 2018 video, and today we're doing something different, as today I want to introduce you to the club that I'm going to be doing a Let's Play of very soon. This is a video where I want to give you an overview of the club I'm going to be managing, talk about my plans in terms of what I aim to do initially with the series as a whole. I want to give you a little bit of a history lesson on the club, talk about some of the current players, and really lay a nice solid foundation so that if you want to kind of get up to speed before episode 1, you kind of know what my hopes and aspirations are for the series. So anyway, the club in question, as you can see in front of you, is Sochaux-Montbéliard. They play in the French 2nd Division. They were the first ever professional football team in France and previously held the record for the most consecutive seasons spent in the top flight of the French Football League. And this is a really unique challenge, which I'm really excited to get into. I'll be completely honest, France is not a league I've managed in before, and while Sochaux here, they have a fairly fruitful history. As you can see here, they were formerly in Ligue 1 for a number of years. They won the French Cup not that long ago. In the league, they finished 5th in 2003, 2004, and even as recently as 2011. As you can see here, however, 4 seasons ago, they were relegated via the relegation playoffs, and the club's just not really recovered. During this time, they've had a change of ownerships, with Peugeot selling the club and a Hong Kong businessman taking over, which has proven somewhat controversial off the pitch. But all in all, recent history of the club has seen better days, certainly. Anyway, looking at a general overview of the history, kind of long term, they've been a fairly successful team. They won Ligue 1 on a number of occasions in the 1930s. They won the French Cup in 2007, which is the most recent major silverware. They did win the Coupe de la Ligue in 2004 and finished runner-up in 2003. And as recently as 2015, they won the Gambardella Cup, which is essentially the French National Youth FA Cup for under-19s. And well, as you might imagine, 2015 not being that long ago, a lot of those players are starting to break into the first team now, and well, that is where things get interesting here. So looking here at the Sochaux first team, there are a number of young players waiting in the wings to be developed and given a chance to play regular first team football. The overall squad balance is fairly solid here, perhaps somewhat lacking in the defensive department. However, there are some young defenders in the reserves who might be capable of playing in the first team if entirely necessary. As I mentioned, there are a number of young players as part of the golden generation, and given the fact that if we look at the contract expiry dates, there are a number of first team players who have been at the club, a few years now at this point, who only have a year left on their contract. It might be a nice opportunity right now to give those younger players a chance. And while speaking of those younger players, just to have a quick look at a few of them, Jean-Do Fuchs is a nice option. The centre midfielder can also play right back. He's only 19, as you can see here. Nice physicals, good defensively, perhaps a little lacking in the creative department to play as a centre midfielder, but he's a player with talent and ability. Axel Aktas, 17 years old, a very talented advanced playmaker, a player who definitely needs first team football, is only 17 years old at the time of starting this, and well, a player who, if we look at his report, is consistent. And well, I think he could be ready to play in the first team immediately, if I'm being honest. Another player, and perhaps the last of the big three, is Yann Ruiz. Now, the 19-year-old can play centre mid. To me, I don't really like his limited style of play, and I think actually, as a centre back, he could be a really good kind of standout option for years to come. And at the tender age of 19, there's room for him to develop. But those aren't the only young talents. Just looking at the potential here, you can see there are a few players in on loan who, if I'm being honest, I'm half tempted to terminate the contracts of. But beyond the first team, there's also a reserve team flooded with talent. And this is where things get interesting, because as I mentioned, players' contracts are going to be expiring at the end of the year. There are young players here in their late teens, early 20s, who, if they develop correctly, are ready made to play in the first team here. I think here at Sochaux, I'm not expecting immediate success. I do, of course, want to put my own stamp on the team, but really, given the talent that already exists within the sides, I'm kind of quite happy as a team expected to finish mid-table in Ligue 2, to kind of slog it out for a few years, develop some of those young French players, and then, well, hopefully make a push into the top flight and establish ourselves there with some of the young players produced by our academy. Looking at the Ligue 2 table, you can see here that we're not the favourites by any means. We're down in 10th at the moment, 65-1 at the time of starting. None of our players feature in the Media Dream 11 either. And if we look at our team overview here, here, whilst we do have some really good players in the first team, I'll have a quick look at these. We've got Pierre Gibord, who's a nice centre-back, can also play full-back, but actually, given the talent that we have in the full-back positions, I feel like he's going to be a good centre-back, Pierre here. We also have Moussa Sow, 27 years old. I think he has the highest value at the club. A good, interesting striker, can also play on the wings. If I'm being honest though, given the fact that he only has 1 year left on his contract, and his value is very, very high, a player who I am half tempted to cash into. And Florian Martin is another player out on the left-hand side, a very talented winger for at this level. Good determination, could be a good tutor. And while despite the fact we have all of these young players, these experienced players are going to be important as well, particularly when it comes to tutoring and ensuring that we have a professional, determined set of youngsters who are really going to fight it out in the league. Looking at the team weaknesses, there is somewhat of a lack of depth. However, given the youth players we've got in the reserve side, I'm more than happy to give them first team opportunities if we are stricken by a lot of injuries. On the financial front, as you can see here, our transfer budget is limited at £180,000. We are currently spending over the wage budget, so that is something that I've got to address immediately. And if I do want to bring in some of my own players, and well, let me tell you now, I've got to perhaps look to offload some of the big earners, cancel some of these loanees who, whilst they are good players, I'd rather bring in my own players on a permanent basis. That would maybe give me the ability to manoeuvre in the transfer market. Looking at the finances as a whole, the current balance is £7 million, which is not too bad at all. We are secure, which is good to see. Looking at the club general profile here, you can see that our reputation is okay. Media prediction, as I've already identified, is 10th. We currently have 4,500 season ticket holders, and if we look at the facilities here, you can see our stadium has a capacity of over 20,000, so I do hope the long term we will be able to see that kind of fill out. Looking at our facilities, we've not got the greatest data analysis facilities, but excellent youth facilities, great training facilities, and an above average youth recruitment should ensure that we have a steady stream of young French players who have real talent and ability to play in the first team flowing into our team within the first few seasons. In terms of my manager profile, here is how I've set up. I obviously had my attributes set up to be in line with what is recommended at Sochaux as manager. I've redistributed them to make myself entirely a suited manager, and then really invested hard in the mental side of things. I've made myself a good attacking coach, which I think should give me an okay starting point. I am not able to speak French in game right now, and with an adaptability of 10, it might take a little while to get to grips with things. In terms of the tactic that I have as set as my favourite, it's a system that I think we're probably going to end up playing here, an asymmetric 4-2-3-1. I will of course talk about the tactic that I have in mind in episode 1 when I cover the team in a little bit more detail. But yes, I'm really excited about FCSM. I think this is going to be an interesting save. As I said, this video was a little bit of an experiment really, just to give you an overview of exactly how things look. I wanted just to really kind of set the scene, I guess, for the club. In terms of my aspirations for this series, for people wondering, this year with Football Manager, I'm not looking to do anything like Gibraltar Apex. I don't want to do a 30-year save. I feel like that took a lot out of me and somewhat contributed to the burnout I've been having. So this year, I'm looking to do slightly shorter term series. Now, don't let that fool you into thinking that this is going to be a 1 or 2 year project. My shorter term series is kind of like 10 seasons as opposed to 20. And I feel like here at Sochaux, we have a platform really to challenge in France. It should be very interesting with all the youth players. And on top of that, given the fact that I've never managed in France before, it's really going to be a venture into the unknown and in a league that I really don't know that much about. Additionally, alongside the main series for this kind of Let's Play, I do want to run a parallel series where I review entirely the youth development side of things. With all the youth players here at the club, I think it provides an interesting opportunity to do a parallel series talking about the training, youth development, kind of maybe on a 6-month basis, on exactly how things are going, how I'm reacting to players' development, and hopefully give you an insight into the youth development side of Football Manager, which is something that I've wanted to do in the past, but I don't ever feel like any of my saves have been particularly tailored towards. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video, slightly different. I'm sure there's information I could have added, and who knows, if this goes down well, maybe I'll do one before episode 1 of my next Let's Play in a few months' time. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, leave a like. If you've got any comments, questions about Sochaux that you would like me to answer, feel free to leave them in the comments. I will get back to you. And other than that, hopefully you're excited for episode 1 off the back of this. It is me, Jack. I will talk to you guys in a bit, and I'm out.